Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Recovery. I'm your host, Michele Eich, and this is my book, How to Kill an Addiction, Recovery with God. In this book, I talk about ways to break free from any life-controlling issue, and we pretty much all have them, with God's help, as well as 20 powerful testimonies of real people who have done just that. So I'd love it if you check it out. But every week I interview somebody who has overcome a life-controlling issue. And this week, my guest is Daniel. Daniel, welcome to Voices of Recovery.
Thank you for having me.
It's great for you to be here. And if you would take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Daniel Ritchie. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a man in long-term recovery. I have a little over 5.5 years by the grace of God. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to tell my story. So thank you.
Awesome. 5.5 years. Congratulations and praise God for that.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And 5 is the number for grace. So you gave props to God for the grace of God. 5 is the number for grace. So I love that. I love that little coincidence there.
Right.
Okay. So Daniel, I know a lot of people in the recovery community in Cincinnati. I used to live there. I was involved with Celebrate Recovery and Women of Alabaster, which are located there. And I heard about an event that's coming up, which is actually going to be a week from the day that this show airs on July 12th, and it's called Triple Threat. And one of the speakers is somebody that I interviewed, Kristen, who's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Good friend of mine.
Yeah, she helped me get connected with you. And so I'm really excited for you to be here. And we definitely want to let people know about this upcoming event because you're going to have 3 speakers, you're going to have food. So let's start off by promoting the event and then we'll go back into your story.
Right. Yeah. I've been involved in Celebrate Recovery. Actually, that was kind of a recent involvement for me. I've really enjoyed it. I love the mission. I love the look of the different outtake it kind of takes or a different avenue of recovery, because for a long time we had a lot of just the AA or NA, but what people do is everybody has different experiences. Yes. And everybody has different beliefs, and some of us have more of a belief in a power greater than ourselves, that God and Jesus, and having been saved. Especially when you're in recovery from something, a lot of times you have a different look on life the day that you are saved and brought into that life of recovery. And so what the triple threat is to give everybody a place, a public place. We're going to get together. We're going to gather. We have 3 speakers: myself, Kristen, another gentleman whose name is not coming to me right now.
Eric.
Yeah. Yes. And we're just gonna, speak our experience and hope and let God speak through us at this event. It's a few hours long, food, all the good stuff, everything, very, very family oriented environment, and anybody can come, whether they are still on their journey to finding recovery, to those that have found it and want to find a fellowship.
So. Perfectly said. I love that. Well, I'm going to post all of the information so that if you're in the greater Cincinnati area and you want to attend this, I really think it would be a great thing. And like you said, wherever you are in the journey, even if you're still using, you need to come, you need to get some food, get some hope that transformation is possible. And you're going to be plugged into a community of awesome people who aren't going to judge you and who understand where you are because they've been there. Okay.
Exactly.
Awesome. So I'm really excited for that event. And if I was in the area, I would definitely be showing up, but who knows, maybe I'll make an effort to get there.
Right.
Okay. So Daniel, I recently watched a Cincinnati news show, which featured you, and you were an MMA fighter.
I was.
You were a lifetime champion. I mean, you had a successful career going with that, and you got injured. So let's kind of start there. Okay. Talk about your fighting and what happened and how that took you on a journey to addiction.
Right. So, to me, fighting was like, looking back, it's the closest thing that I relate to recovery today. So just to kind of give that avenue or that kind of look to it in the beginning, I had a very troubled childhood. But boxing and MMA was always my go-to. So at 18 years old, I pursued that career.
Okay.
I loved it. And a lot of people are like, you like to fight? Well, yeah, I did. I liked to fight, but I liked the challenge that it gave me. I liked the rawness and the like real there's no fake in that cage door shuts behind you. It's just raw human emotion. It's it's primal. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like a spiritual experience.
Really? Okay.
So I got an opportunity to I wanted to be a champion. I believe that if you don't want to be the best at something, then what are you doing there? That was always, it's those my look. I always want to be the best person I can be. And but so I got a chance to, I was doing very well. I got a chance to, if I could beat this other fighter. He was a champion already at another show.
Okay.
Didn't know much about him, but I remember showing up to the fight, that the weigh-ins, and being like, looking around, because back then, this is in the early 2000s. There wasn't all this access today. You didn't do research. They just, they put a name out there, and then you fought that guy. You could maybe try to look him up on YouTube, but if you might be lucky to find something. Okay. And then, I never did that anyway, because I felt like it would psych me out. So I go to weigh in, I'm looking around. I see this gentleman standing over here. And I mean, I look at this guy and I go, wow, I feel sorry for whoever's fighting that guy tonight. And they were like, you are. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. Like, like there's certain people you see and you're like, I wouldn't mess with that guy. Well, that was the guy that I had to fight that night.
Wow.
And so, I remember walking out, get in the cage with this guy, and turn to my corner, and they tell me I say, you're looking for those last words of wisdom, and they go, Daniel, just don't get hit. And I go, what? I'm gonna fight. Like it's not what you want to hear. So I was just like, oh boy. Yeah. So, but we go out, we start, you kind of get ready, and he hits me, and I panic almost. I don't think I'd ever been hit that hard up to that point, and I've been hit. I've had quite a few fights by then, and I shot in on him. If somebody knows anything about wrestling, I shot in. I went for a double leg. I grabbed him, and I kind of picked him up, and my thought process was like, I have to slam this guy as hard as I can, or he's gonna kill me. Like my survival is on, my survival mode, and so I go to take him down. And I land, and immediately I knew something was wrong. I just wasn't sure what. I wasn't sure whether I was having a heart attack.
Oh wow!
I just broke my neck, or if this was just. I just knew something was wrong. And I rode out the first round, and I kept fighting. Stayed on top. I kept control. Went to my corner. Tried to, I was like, hey guys, something's wrong, and they were like, yeah, you're like, this guy beat the hell out, and I was like, but so we go out the second round, I go to throw a jab, and my arm completely comes out of socket.
Oh wow.
So now I have one arm, and I go but in MMA, the beauty of MMA is the multiple avenues that you can win a fight.
Okay.
So I knew I couldn't take him down. I knew I couldn't punch. So I threw my first leg kick, and he didn't block it. I threw another leg kick. I noticed his facial expression change. I faked. I threw another one, and he started to back up. I jumped in with as much as I could, threw one more, and he quit. So I won the fight via TKO with one arm. So
my goodness. Wow. Okay.
That's my favorite fight story. But the importance of that story is that injury that night. I went to the hospital. They had told me I had a Bankhart's fracture and a torn labrum. Basically, my bone that was in my shoulder that holds it in socket was broken. So my arm was completely, it would stay in socket, but if I lifted it above like 30 degrees, it popped out. Okay. So they gave me opiate pain medication. And I remember that night I didn't even take any. I didn't take it because adrenaline is something that's very powerful, especially that was one of the things I I did it for was the adrenaline. But that next day, I remember taking a couple of those, and just it was like my entire world had come together. Like, it was like, oh my God. Like, I remember calling my mother and being like, Mom, they gave me this medication, and this is the greatest thing of my life. Why have you guys never given this to me? It's called Percocet. and she was like, Daniel, it's a pain medication. Yeah, but
Right.
the thing was, is like my whole life I dealt with depression. There's the mental health in my family, which we can get to, but I never, even throughout being getting all this attention, I always had what I think they call imposter syndrome, where you just never believe you're who you are. And I was depressed, and I never felt good talking to girls. I always felt like I was putting on a show. But when I took those pills, everything came together for me. Really? It was like I was no longer depressed. I no longer had physical pain. More importantly to me, I didn't have that emotional pain, that like dagger that I felt from most of my life. It was like I felt good. I felt like what I believed normal people felt when they just went on throughout their day. So that was my introduction.
Wow. I mean, just that quick things. And I mean, like so many things, as you know, Daniel, it seems like the magic bullet, the wonderful, oh, here it is. This is what I've been looking for all my life. And you and I both know that that initial high, or that initial good feeling, isn't going to last forever. It's going to take you into a dark place. But you mentioned not really feeling comfortable in your skin, not really knowing who you are. And I believe for my own journey with coming to faith in Jesus, and my journey with God, is he's really shown me who I am. I didn't know who I was, and my behavior reflected that. And God showed me who I was, and that the answer was daughter, that I was his daughter, that he loved me, that my daddy was the King of Kings. Like, that was a major transformation in my life. Yeah. So when we don't know God, we sometimes let the world define us, or we let our family, and if our family doesn't know who they are, like, how are they going to tell us who we are? Or we let our achievements define us. And, you had those champion, I don't know if it's rings or trophies or whatever, but like, you had those under your belt, and it's like, wow, I'm somebody because I'm doing this. And I think a lot of people live there. Like, they let their achievements define them, but then when they can't do that thing anymore, then what?
Right.
An injury takes you out, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Finding another thing, and for some of us, that's it's dangerous.
Right.
Others find, I feel like there's something different about people who suffer from like alcoholism and addiction, just and major depressions, just because we find comfort in chaos, and we find solace in things that are are equivalent to playing Russian roulette. It's and that's not a normal thought process. And I believe that's piggybacking off of because God is involved in everything I do today. Everything has some tie-in with God. God puts people in front of me for a reason. Yes. People call me. I pass them in stores. I see them suffering. I see people happy, whatever it may be. But I feel like those things, everything's placed, everything's in succession for a reason. And
I agree.
You're right. So it's just I forgot kind of where I was going with that thought, but God has given me a lot of this journey for purpose.
Yes.
I'm not meant to understand that purpose always in the moment. And that's the thing I keep in the back of my head.
Yeah, because you can have an encounter with someone that seems like nothing, like it just seems like no big deal. But then later you learn, wow, whatever you said really like saved my life. Yeah. Right. And so, yeah, God sees that big picture. But you talked about like the addict, and let's face it, a lot of people take Percocet. Like, they have an injury, they have a surgery. I had a family member who was prescribed that. He took a couple and he was fine, and it didn't do anything other than maybe numb the pain a little bit, and then off he went. But for you, like, for whatever reason, you're built differently, or it was just like magical, and it changed you, not only the physical pain, but the emotional pain, and made you a different person.
It did. It did. It gave me tons of confidence. And the thing that I always like to point out is I think everybody gets an idea in their head that it was like, oh, I touched Percocet and then all of a sudden I was full blown addiction. Like, no, it took years for this to build up. I had, at this point I had my surgery. I continued to abuse pain medication.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really even understand, although I had used substances my whole life. I didn't understand addiction.
Okay.
And I remember my promoter was like, he recognized it before I did. And he goes, Daniel, if you want this, if you want to fight for this belt, man, you got to chill out. And I did. I never stopped all the way, but I cut back to a point where it was very few and far in between. Like maybe but it was always something I did routinely. Like, okay, Saturday night, I'm going to have two. I was a bouncer at a bar too.
Okay.
Like, okay, at midnight, I'm going to take a Percocet, half an Adderall, and then I'm going to take 2 shots of vodka, and my game will be on point, and I'll be able to talk to any girl I want. Like that was like one of the factors was actually like I could talk to women like as what everybody said I was good looking. I did modeling. I did I was a champion fighter, but to me, I wasn't enough. This guy's better than me because he's got a professional career and I'm getting punched in the face every day. Like, oh yeah, this guy, he's more of somebody that a woman would want to be with. I'm more of like a one night stand,
Right.
and that sounds good to some men when they're younger, but it wasn't good for me. I didn't, because it kind of gave me no hope for the future.
Sure.
I lived as though I wanted to get it all in before I died, as if I was going to be dying soon. Like that was the mindset that looking back, when I look back at it today, I see someone who thought that no matter what they did, they were going to die young. I had to get it all in now. And I'm not sure exactly where that came from. But it was a success. But I still abused this pain medication, and I was competing, and I was fighting and still abusing pain meds. I found a doctor who would give me as much as I wanted, cash pay. This is the beginning of the opioid epidemic, somewhat, when it was really revving up, and doctors were capitalizing on it in a lot of areas, especially here in Ohio, Southern Ohio. You go to, if you had enough money, not buy enough money. $300-$400. If you had $500, you could go to a doctor, and you could fill your prescription downstairs in their basement pharmacy. So it was a different time back then, and it was. No matter what it wasn't enough medication, and I didn't realize. And this is where I had a big problem was my morals. Like my morals slipped. Like not that I was. But I did go to church at one time. I did, pray to God and do all this stuff. And as my addiction grew, so did a lot of the other things I got involved in. I was I slept with a lot of women, but I also caused a lot of harm in that process. But I would do things like I would meet couples online. I did, some pornography. I know this, but that's my journey. I was very reckless, and that was like how my addiction. There's so many aspects of it at first, but it was all for those pills, because it was always like, all right, I'm gonna go do this and pop 2 more. You know what I mean? It was but I was lonely and I was lost, as long as I took one of those pills, I was okay.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, we know that the pills numb the pain physically, numb you emotionally, but maybe they kind of dull our conscience as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of, and that will happen with a lot of substances.
Yeah.
You may feel a certain kind of way, and then after drinking for a while, it's like you let your guard down, you kind of don't care, and then it's like you make the decision to use the substance, then the decisions you make while on the substance aren't always the best, right? And then those lead to consequences, as you said.
Right. Yep,
So,
and further addiction.
right.
You know, one
Exactly.
of the things I always said when I we get to like what I do today is you know, when we deal with trauma,
Yeah.
it's sometimes trauma is a gateway to addiction, but what keeps them in addiction is the additional trauma they experience while in addiction.
Right.
So it's almost like you have to find a stopping point. Like you're not going to be able to just, you know, before there is additional trauma, because hopefully, you know, you can do something about that before there's just even more added onto it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you talked about the doctors and how during that time it was just if you had the money, you could get it. Okay. And now I think people realized what was happening and there are stricter rules because of what happened, and that eventually for many turned into heroin. Is that what happened to you, Daniel? Did you eventually move into
it
heroin?
is.
Okay.
It is. I got caught busted going to two different doctors. So I was considered what they called red flagged.
Okay.
You know, they were starting to, I mean, you know, they were kind of starting, I think, to take a harder look at some of these doctors. So these doctors were like, if you went to see another doctor and got a prescription, which was what I did, and I filled them. And what got me caught was I filled two prescriptions 2 weeks apart.
Okay.
And they both cut me off. And I was so sick. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I've called my friend. I bought pain pills from him before. And he goes, I don't got any pain meds. I got this dog is what they called it. Called a dog. But, you know, I'm like, and I'm like, okay. And I went, I was like, dude, I'm not a heroin addict though, man. You know, like he's like, dude, it's the same thing. And I'm like, and at that point I was just like, I got to go. I was doing some personal training on the side too. And I'm like, I got to go train these people. Like you know, I felt awful. We know the things that come along with opioid withdrawal. And so I did it. And I only did $10 worth. And I was like, I felt better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I knew though, there was like something in my head that said like, Daniel, this is a bad idea.
Right.
You know, it was like
Crossing the line, kind
I
of.
crossed, yep. And I had crossed a lot of lines up to that point, but that was a line that's a much bigger line, you know, and because now I opened that door.
Right.
Because before I was like, I won't do that. I will stick with pills.
Mm-hmm.
I can control that. I know what I'm getting. I'd seen people overdose, you know, and overdoses weren't even as prevalent back then. And I'd overdosed myself before prior to that at one time. And so it was about the money for me. Like I was saving money. That's why I felt, you know, it was my first introduction to heroin.
Okay. I've heard a lot of people share similar stories like, well, I'm never going to do that. Like I'm doing this, but I'm never going to do that. And then you
Right.
do that. And it's like, but I'll never do that. And it just progresses. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how things go. When you were cut off from the Percocet, did you at that point realize you were addicted? Because I heard somebody share her testimony and she said, you know, I was so sick and I had a friend say, you're dope sick. And she was like,
Yeah.
what? Like she had no idea
Yeah.
that was even a thing. Did you realize at that point when you got cut off that you were addicted and you were dope sick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, and actually a guy who had become my best friend. He was a drug. He was like there was like one of the local drug dealers. He, you know, and it was,
Mhm.
so you know, and I kept those people close, you know, and they kept me close because for one, I had a good name, and people wouldn't mess with them. And if you know, I did collections for them. I don't know how I stayed out of prison. I have no idea how. But you know, I did a lot. They knew that if somebody saw me coming, they were gonna pay up.
Okay.
Or they were going to hide somewhere. I think or it was going to be, it wasn't going to be easy for them. So, but I found that I was sick, and I remember that gentleman going like, "Hey, you're one of us now, man," and laughing, and me almost having a sense of belonging because I was dope sick. Like now, you know, it was so weird. Like,
Yeah.
he was happy about it. I wasn't happy, but I also at the same time like, it's like I didn't care, but I didn't care like what it was doing to me.
Hmm.
It was a very weird feeling. But yeah, so at that point it was you know, I'm this is my life now.
Yeah. Okay. So eventually, as I watched the news clip about you, you said that you checked yourself into rehab. So from the time that you used the heroin to the time that you decided, like, I need help, I need to check myself into a treatment facility, how long was that?
7 years.
Wow. Okay. And how bad did things get? Because usually things have to get pretty bad before we will ask for help and realize I
Yeah,
cannot continue in this lifestyle. What was
right.
it, Daniel, that happened to you that made you want to get help and go into treatment?
You know it was a succession of things. It's funny, the worst things that happened to me, I believe they all played a part. But it was Harley. Harley. Sorry.
It's okay. Your daughter laughing is like the best thing ever.
I know.
We just love that, so it's that's how we roll here.
Yeah, no, I love it so much that it's gonna, oh baby, it just got me, throw me off. But so yeah, it was a in the 7 years I was addicted, I was stabbed. Somebody tried to murder me. I was witnessed 2 murders. One of them I had been gotten wrapped up in with the courts. But it was like I overdosed. I've been Narcan 9 times. I overdosed more than that, but it was that last overdose. I shouldn't have survived. I was dead.
Wow.
And they just came, and they said like you were dead, and I just started breathing again. I believe that was the hand of God, and but I just was so broken. I was so tired, and every time I would overdose, they would or Narcan me, or somebody would be there, and I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, because I remember my number one resentment was against God for that reason, because I was like, why do you keep torturing me?
Mm.
Why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. Why are you doing this to me? And I was just like, I was so tired. I had no belief. I was like, maybe I didn't have anything to lose. Like I don't know. Like it was like all those things in succession over years of time, and basically I was like, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
What do I'm tired. I need somewhere to go lay down. I don't want to live like this anymore.
Right.
But there was, when I called this last time to treatment, this lady, I remember being like, I just left. I know that you aren't, I understand if you won't let me back. And I know I'm a F up, and I know all these things, and I'm sorry, but I just don't want to live this way anymore. And the lady goes, baby, it's going to be okay. We're going to get you in here, and it's going to be okay. And it was the compassion. It was the compassion that she showed me, because I had for years, it seemed, nobody had anything nice to say. Nobody told me it was going to be okay. They said, you're going to die. So you're going to die. Or they were bothered by my presence, or would shove me out of the doorway when I'm trying to stand in there out of the rain, or just the constant bombardment of hate and disappointment I felt subhuman. And that gave me that little bit of glimmer of humanity, that seed of hope. She had planted that without even knowing it. That's what I tell people. She didn't even know. I don't even know who that was. She changed my life by those 3 simple words. And that's why I came back that time.
Wow, Daniel, you just dropped a nuke, because that was so powerful. We talked in the beginning of this show that sometimes things happen and we don't realize it's a big deal, but it is a big deal. And what that lady did for you was a huge deal. Just giving you that hope, treating you like a human being, telling you it was going to be okay, and giving you another opportunity. And I think that message right there is really for so many people in our audience, because I know we have people who are watching who aren't addicted or who weren't addicted.
Right.
We have people watching who are maybe parents of addicts or someone who's addicted, people who are helping others in recovery. We have a variety of people watching our show. And I think that really speaks to all of us, that when we show compassion, when we're not judging people, when we're giving people hope that things are going to be okay, you never know. And I mentioned earlier that I volunteer for Women of Alabaster, and that is located in Cincinnati. And Scarlett Hudson is always telling the girls that she serves, maybe today's the day. Maybe today's the day. Maybe you had 100 or 200 or 300 days, but maybe today's the day, and giving people hope and that opportunity that when you're ready, I'm going to help you get treatment, and I'm going to give you a safe place to go to recover.
Right.
So beautiful. I love that. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, Daniel, because that was awesome. All right. So what happened next?
I went to treatment, and I was almost, I had always gone to detox to lower my tolerance, because I always had this delusional thought that I could control IV drug use.
Okay.
I could constructively shoot dope. I mean, you know, I'm different still. Somehow I'm different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. At time I decided to stay, because I came to a realization that regardless of the things I'd done in my life, you know, the champion fighter, the successful trainer, you know, everything that I thought made me was gone. And I had been in the streets for years that maybe I don't know what's best for me anymore. And that was like an epiphany to me, though. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know what's best for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't believe it. And but I was like, something about this, I want to continue. I want to see this. I'm doing this, I'm doing it. And one of my biggest spiritual experiences happened about 2 weeks into treatment. I was having a dream, and in this dream, I was flying through the air. It was like dusk, or it was dawn, but it was very dim out, and I'm in a wooded area, and I look down, and there's like a clearing, and in this clearing there's a lion, and this lion was just laying there on his side, and I kind of I feel like it was like a feather, and I floated down into this lion, and I kind of came to as the lion, and I look around the woods, and I see these pitch black animals. I have like a wolf. He's coming out of the woods. He's got red eyes. He's staring me down. Behind him comes what looks like a deer with giant antlers, but it's pitch black with the red eyes, and it's staring me down. And then we have and then there was another animal that came out. It had like spikes on its back, and it was glaring me down with those red eyes, and I was terrified. So I started to run, and I'm running, but I'm like going through, you know, all of a sudden the woods much more clear, and I'm running what looks like down a dirt road, so vivid. And I'm running, and I'm scared I'm scared just like any nightmare would when we go run in a nightmare. But I'm running. I look behind me, and they're gaining on me. Run. And all of a sudden I remembered something, that I was a lion. And I stopped, and I turned around, and I roared, and they scattered.
Yes.
And
I love it.
And I remember waking up from that dream. And probably the reason I remember this dream the way I do is because I've thought about it almost every day the last 5.5 years. It's because that was so profound that, and it was at that time when I was trying to rediscover myself, rediscover my faith.
Yes.
And I remember just around that same time, waking up and looking in the mirror and saying, I'm still in there. That God was telling me that lion is still inside, that I'm still that champion. He's in there somewhere. I just have to continue to fight, because my demons are more scared of me than I am of them.
Preach it. That's right.
So yeah, that was one of the moments that changed my course, was that vision or that dream or whatever it was.
That's
and
so
I just
good.
started to find me again.
Yeah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah lives inside of us, and it's through his power, just like with David. David fighting Goliath in his own power wasn't going to end well. And you're a fighter, and you've probably had some Goliaths in the ring. And yet,
Yeah.
when God is with us and he's in us, we are powerful, and we can take down the giants. And the enemy is always trying to lie to us that you're nothing, you can't do this, this is bigger than you, but it's not true.
Right.
That is an incredible vision. I love it. And I can see how that really shifted things for you to continue on your path to recovery.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's talk about all the things that you're doing now.
Okay.
Anything else you want to share about the recovery process?
Just I mean, just that if I could share one thing about the recovery process in general, be like, your recovery will evolve, it will change, you will find new avenues to utilize, you will have new friendships. You will lose friends in this process. The recovery community, we unfortunately, one of the things that comes with this is death, because we are fighting a battle that's destroyed. I mean, it'll be well over 100,000 lives this year alone. And it's you just have to be vigilant and be there for each other, and just but understand that maybe something you do in your recovery now may not be something you're doing later. You may start out in a 12-step program, end up in a Celebrate Recovery meeting, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be one strict minded, right?
Right.
We can change our belief systems. Just because people get turned off. It's a lot of people that have a resentment against God. You know, it's one of the first things I hear, because they have lived in nothing but hell for a while, but they don't understand God is still there, that there are two sides to this, that God helps them walk out, but the devil still wants to keep them in those flames. They just have to know which way to turn. They got to know which hand to grab. But it's just understand it, that if you do now, just because you have a resentment towards God now doesn't mean you will later. Open up your mind, open up yourself, give yourself a chance to let the light in. And that journey alone will be the beauty.
Yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Daniel. But it just reminded me of what you said earlier, that you were kind of in that place of being mad at God. Like, you're going to do that to me again. Right. And what was that exactly? Was that rescuing you from the overdose? I mean, did you want to die? What was it that you were upset with God over?
I was upset with God over still being alive.
Okay.
Basically, it was like, why are you torturing me? I thought, let me come home. Whatever, or however you want to coin the term. I didn't understand why I couldn't get out, why I couldn't stop, how I even got here. Like, why has my life been just, why all of my life have I struggled? Like, why? Mm-hmm. Like, aren't you supposed to give up? Are we supposed to be happy? Are we supposed to, but I realized I never thanked him when things went right either. Okay. That's good. And I just, but I would blame them when things went wrong. And I think it was almost like an outlet. Like, where are you, God? Almighty powerful, right? Like, you've watched all of this happen, and I'm supposed to believe in you. And then, but I'm also supposed to, like, why are you saving me? Yeah. But little did I know he did have a reason for saving me. Absolutely. It's so good. And I appreciate your transparency with that, because I think a lot of people are there and they just maybe don't want to say those words, like, I'm mad at God, I blame him. Yeah. Now you can turn around and look back and thank him for saving you. Because of all the awesome things that are happening in your life, including that little girl giggling in the background. But if you could just take a moment and just share with our audience what you're doing now, because I know you're involved, you're on a speaking tour, you're working on a book, you're a recovery mentor. I mean, I love it. I love how people in the recovery community go back and help people, pull people out and give them hope, which is exactly what we're doing here. So share a little bit about that, because this is really exciting. Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, just to kind of piggyback off how we ended that, like, yes, I didn't see God's purpose. I thought that the word faith comes to mind. So faith, like, what is faith? Faith, people see, oh, I have faith. But faith is not just something you say, faith is something you experience.
Yeah.
And that's what really started this for me, was the trials and tribulations I had during recovery. My first one, I didn't pick up, I didn't use again. And I prayed, because that's what I was instructed to do. Daniel, pray. Your belief in God will gain strength. I made it through that situations, and I gained a little bit more faith each time. And as my faith grew, so did my belief in God. And and then I believe, and then also the side effect of that was maybe I went through everything that I did for a reason. One of the hardest things that I had to deal with when I got sober was knowing that I'm never going to fight again. It wasn't something people were like, oh yeah, like I was at a competitive level that to me I can never return to. And I've had my body went through a lot in addiction. I was hospitalized multiple times for infections. I was, I put my body through the ringer, and I would never be able to return to that level at that age, because I was 35 when I finally got sober. So, that was really hard for me to deal with. What am I going to do with my life? I can't fight. I'm not going to fight. But I came to a realization the first time I went into a hospital and I was able to help somebody, that maybe I was never meant to be a fighter, or a fighter in that sense of the word. That was I was gaining tools and knowledge and skills that I was going to need for the bigger fight, for the fight that I was really supposed to have, my purpose. Everything I went through led to this. Everything I went through was to gain experience, to be able to make a bigger impact on this world, and to fight this opioid epidemic that is destroying our country, because that is a demon in its own right. Very powerful. And God said, like, you're going to have to go through this. You're going to have to suffer, but it's going to be for a reason. That last overdose I had, he blessed me with that purpose, I believe. Like, he grabbed me and said, no, Daniel, there's a bigger purpose for you. Wake up. And that was the wake up. That was the beginning of such a bigger path. People have always been somewhat drawn to me in like a leader sense. Ever since I was a kid, I had this way to lead. In recovery, it was the same way. I also had that background, so I had that story. It was unique. It was something, it gives me a platform, and I'm grateful for that. But I still have to, I have to still take the action and have the faith in order to capitalize on that gift of God, from God. But it was, so I got an opportunity to volunteer at the hospital. Just volunteer 4 hours a week, me and another gentleman. In that first year, we got 58 people into drug treatment.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I'm good at this. And I love the way it makes me feel, because I love the way MMA fighting made me feel. I love the way drugs made me feel, but I love the way this makes me feel. This is much more powerful. And not only that, but I have a smile on my face. I don't live in fear. This is special.
Yes.
And then from there, I ended up getting hired. Because I was bouncing at a bar. I was bouncing at a bar in recovery, a college bar. That's what I knew. I didn't know much else. I didn't have the background. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have these things. I was a competitive fighter, a bouncer at a bar, and then I fell into drugs. I was a personal trainer too, but that bridge was burned down. I could maybe fix the relationships I did along the way, but I was never going to be able to return to that industry. And that was fine. So I found, and then, I love to speak. So I'm passionate about it because I'm real and I'm raw. And I believe God speaks through me in certain ways. Like, I don't plan out speeches. I don't plan out what I'm going to say, because when I do, I'm selling myself short. What kind of day am I having today? That's what needs to come out through it. That real, that raw. If I'm having a bad day, I've done speaking engagements. I've had bad days. Today is not a good day. Maybe someone else is having a bad day too. And I guess what, we'll find a good day together. Right. And sharing where you're at, because people are at the same place you're at sometimes.
Right.
Like people don't want to glorify. You know, one of the things I've that's given me, I think, made me a sought after speaker is I'm real in the fact that I don't glorify every day in recovery. Like
Right.
you get advocates and speakers out there like, my life is great today. It's beautiful. Like every day is supposed to be a rainbow. And it's not. It's not every day is a rainbow.
Yep.
Like every some days are great and that's wonderful. Hold on to that. But tomorrow may be on fire.
Right.
And does that make you any less of a member of the recovery community or any less recovered or sober?
Right.
No.
Yep.
Those are the days that matter. Like those are the days when your faith, all these tools, everything you learn in a 12-step program, working these steps, that's when it all matters, is when you are thrown into the flames. But you can still come out better than you went in. And so I talk about bad days. Guess what? Today I don't feel good. Today I looked in the mirror and I saw this track marks on my neck from where I shot up, and I saw the scar over my eye where that dude beat the hell out of me. I had all these, and guess what? I feel ugly today. I'm going back to bed.
Yeah.
And I'll put on that, but then I'll talk about how, I prayed about it or what else I did. And I got up and I just had one of the best days I've had in my life.
I think people appreciate you being real with them because we can kind of sense people who are just being fake, and right. That's good. Well, we're running out of time and there's so many things that we could talk about, but
Absolutely.
I love your story. I love their story of fighting, being a fighter. You're still a fighter and you're an overcomer. And now you're fighting the good fight of faith, which is what Paul talks to Timothy about. And it's just also good. And I love the way that you're helping people. And I say this all the time, but it's so true. God wastes nothing. He wastes nothing. All the things that you went through, he is using for you to help other people and continuing to bring this message of hope that recovery is possible with God. So God bless you. And I just am excited. I'm really excited about this book that you're writing. When you get it published, let us know. And maybe I'll have you on again. You can promote that and we can get that message out. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Daniel. And again,
Michelle.
Tuesday, July 12th in the greater Cincinnati area. And I will be sharing that information if you want to go. It's going to be awesome.
Great. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I want to thank our audience for watching this episode of Voices of Recovery. We're creating a safe place where people can go on their journey with God. And I'd love it if you give us a like or follow, and please share this message out because there's somebody who needs to hear what Daniel had to say today. So God bless you, Daniel. Thank you to our audience, and we'll see you next time on Voices of Recovery. Bye-bye.